I guess where I want to go next is the member turnover problem. It still sits around the same levels it did decades ago. And do you think this is a data problem or is it a human problem?
I mean, that's a good question. I don't know that it's a problem. Maybe it's not a problem at all. I mean, members turn over. And so as an operator, if you look at, okay, I have 15% attrition. All of my buddies in fitness and all the entrepreneurs that I know in fitness, they have around the same. It's not the problem. That's the norm. And once we've established that as the norm, let's focus on something else to attract maybe more members so that 15% that we have is less of the pie than it was before. Or let's increase our offering and the experience within the club so that the dollar amount that we're charging per person, our revenue per member is higher. I just think that the attrition piece of it, Americans are fickle. I mean, we don't stick with anything. The vast majority of the population is, I want it now, and I want it to do what I want it to do is quickly, instant gratification. And as soon as that doesn't happen, they move on. They move on to the next. And it's only gotten worse.
Justin, let's just start with the obvious contradictions staring all of us right in the face right now. Big box gyms are up 10% in new joins. Studios are down 4% and losing ground. We're seeing more and more studios kind of just closing. Check-ins are up overall 5%. So I'm looking at this and the market isn't shrinking. People are still showing up. People are still joining. But my question is, if studios are all about community, which was kind of supposed to be this cure, why are they losing ground? Is it possible that this word community has just become cliche now in the industry?
Good point, Adam. And just for a point of clarity, for my reference, because I don't know those stats. I haven't. I'm not.
It was the ABC just released that new report.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm not up to speed on those stats like you are. Is that for U.S. or is that a global stat?
That's a good
It's probably just U.S., I would assume.
Yeah, it's ABC. Well, it might be. ABC's global. It might be either way.
Maybe across ABC's ecosystem, which is primarily U.S. and then some European stuff. I mean, real quick, like we use Club Ready as a software provider for what we do. And in conversation with these guys, I know that they're probably one of the biggest out there for boutique and studio as far as being the software provider. Like they're launching 100 new Club Pilates in the next 30, 45 days in Mexico. So, the Exponential brand, which owns Club Pilates, they've seen definitely some hard times post-COVID, change of CEO and leadership and they've run into some tough stuff, but Club Pilates specifically has really seen, not to play on words here, some exponential growth. So I don't necessarily think all boutiques are created equal. I think there was pre-COVID, everybody had the boutique craze and there was a mad dash to, throw your stamp on a modality and create a brick and mortar around it. You could find something for anything, whether it's rowing or hanging from the ceiling doing acrobatics, or, rooms that you put hot towels on your face and hot rocks on your body. I think there's one called Hot Rocks today. So, literally something for everybody. And I think that in and of itself was one of the problems and still remains one of the problems is that it's so stratified, there's just way too many options. So it's like analysis paralysis as a fitness consumer. Yeah. What do I do? What's the best for me? And you make a good point. Check-ins are up. For the first time, the past, I guess really since COVID, we have seen an increase in fitness consumers as a percentage of the population in the United States of America. That percentage used to be static forever, 60, 70 years. That percentage of the population that worked out once a week or more, or maybe it's twice a month. I don't know exactly where that number falls. That stayed around the 18% mark, you know. But now it's grown since COVID. And I think that's more of a health consciousness thing, taking your health into your own hands, understanding the fragility of life. And obviously just the information being out there. But to your point, big box are up, boutique is down. That's real, but I don't think it's because, boutiques are doing any worse job and big box are doing any better job. I think big box are just starting to catch on to the fact that, hey, we lost a lot of consumers to boutique, and those consumers were our most active. They generated the most referrals. They spent the most money in our clubs. And so we want to get those people back. And so what's taking them away is what we're going to start adding to our clubs. So big box gyms now, thinking through the process of, instead of adding a bunch of new equipment or new lighting or new whatever, let's add a studio or a couple studios to our facility and include it in the membership at a little bit higher price point, so we can offer the same experience to that consumer that left us for a much cheaper price, plus they get the rest of the facility. And I think that's proven out in what LA Fitness has really focused on in the past 3 years with their club studio concept. That's their new bailiwick. They've got 5-6 modalities that they're building a box around. And so you enter into that building and it's literally 5-6 boutiques under one roof. And, that's the direction that they're going. That's where they see their future.
So it almost sounds like, and I think we agree on this, is that it's coming full circle. I always said there's like this 5 to 7 year cycle in the industry where it just seems to, you got big boxes. I mean, 70s and 80s was all big boxes, big racquetball clubs, 100,000 square foot plus facilities. There's cigar rooms and bars and restaurants. And then the 8 to 12,000 square foot mid-level clubs just flood the market. The Golds, the Worlds, the Powerhouses, you know them all. And then they seem to die off around the 2000s, and it enters this kind of specialized, more single modality, or maybe CrossFit was the impetus that actually led us down this path, because people were looking for something different. And then you've got just all these choices of different little boutiques and studios. But now maybe the big boxes, the big operators, have recognized they're missing something. So we've got all this space. Why not just start putting a boutique or a studio inside the box? And so now they're starting to capture some ground and take away from the studio space. Now I'm not taking away from, there is potential growth still in the studio space, but is it possible that there were just too many options that flooded every block inside of the major cities, these studios in one block, and go, which one am I going to join?
Go ahead. 100%. I mean, and if you think about like consumer behavior, especially with the advent of how easy technology has made purchasing decisions, right? And we'll use Amazon for example. Amazon now, you can get your pharmacy prescriptions from Amazon. You can get some of your groceries now from Amazon because they gobble up Whole Foods. Now you can get same day stuff in larger metropolitan areas. Like, you literally don't have to go anywhere else except for Amazon. And Amazon also provides you streaming services for music, streaming services for video. They can catalog and capture your phones, your pictures. So, the concept of being able to provide everything a consumer needs under kind of one roof, I think is, what fitness entrepreneurs and operators are catching on to. That, as a fitness consumer, we want options, and we love technology, and we love innovation. And you mentioned CrossFit. CrossFit on the adoption curve was the innovator, right? And so they blazed the trail, and they set out, and they differentiated themselves from everybody else. But they were an elite class, and you had to be elite to get into the CrossFit space, but they attracted a percentage of the population, but that percentage of the population, they're already fitness enthusiasts, and they had an opportunity to take it to the next level. But around the same time, you also had the entrance of HBLP. And so you got clubs in what you spoke about with, really the, almost, back in the 80s, you had facilities that were more of spas. Yeah. They had bars, and, they had a lot of wet areas and saunas and ice boxes. And it was a social setting for the most part. And then that died. Bally's died, and then a lot of other, big boxes entered 24-hour fitness, LA Fitness, and it was just fitness, big box, just fitness, maybe some group programming for the ladies, but, just fitness. In the beginning in LA Fitnesses and some of these 24s, maybe they had some racquetball courts and things like that, but pretty bare bones. And then what I think the HVLP, the high volume, low price model that Planet Fitness ushered into, the fitness ecosystem, it created classes of fitness consumers, the haves and the have-nots. And so the people that were serious about their fitness didn't want to continue to go to a facility of people that weren't that serious. I've got a gym membership to just have a gym membership. And that's Planet Fitness caters to that, right? They want to be able to provide a gym membership to anybody and everybody. And if they don't work out, it's okay. You have the option to go whenever you want to go. Versus the individual that knows fitness is serious. It's part of my life. And when I go there, I want to be around like-minded individuals. And I want to be able to feel like, the individuals here, I'm encouraged to work harder. I'm encouraged to step up. And so I think that is one of the things that helped usher in the boutique fitness with the specialization. And I think in business, that specialization is the key to really success, right? When you get specialized, that's where you see the growth. It's when you're doing a bunch of different things and you're not, jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
Yes. And so, but now, again, it's kind of come full circle, like you said, whether it's 8 to 12, I think it's more on a 20-year cycle, like the, when you think about Richard Simmons and how popular Richard Simmons was, that was the 80s.
Yeah. Simmons, Jane Fonda.
Yeah. But I mean, that all came back 20 years later with the P90X and the Beachbody, and Weight Watchers had a huge push. And I don't think, they had to reinvent themselves, but, so I think there's these 20-year cycles that fitness goes on, at least in the United States of America, that provide opportunity for anybody to jump into the space that provides a quality products. But the key is, as an owner or an operator, you need to stay nimble. And like Bruce Lee says, you gotta be like water. You got to match the container that you have in front of you, right? And so if your patrons want X, Y, and Z, and you're trying to feed them A, B, and C, they're going to go somewhere else to find X, Y, and Z.
Totally agree. And I think, we've had a lot of discussions about this, and I would say we are moving in the right direction. We're finally breaking free from the 18 to 20% into that 80% group that we've all been desperately talking about. It's not that they're stopping working out. I think especially the millennials and especially Gen Z, that population is way more, I guess, looking at holistically their life. They're looking at wanting to stay healthy, wanting to stay able to just live a life that is easy into their 70s, 80s, 90s and on. They're looking at things differently. So there's a vast segment of the population who wants to be part of these communities. And we've got all this tech, all this access, but I guess where I want to go next is the member turnover problem. It still sits around the same levels it did decades ago. And do you think this is a data problem or is it a human problem?
I mean, that's a good question. I don't know that it's a problem. Maybe it's not a problem at all. I mean, members turn over. And so as an operator, if you look at, okay, I've got, I don't know, let's say you have 15% attrition, and that's where you've been. If you look at it as a problem, can you figure out and solve for some things to maybe increase that or decrease, increase your attention, decrease your attrition? Sure, I think so. But are you going to move the needle a lot? Is that going to be your 1, 2, or 3 big things that you're going to focus on and push for? Or do you look at, hey, I have 15% attrition. All of my buddies in fitness and all the entrepreneurs that I know in fitness, they have around the same. It's not the problem. That's the norm. And once we've established that as the norm, let's focus on something else to attract maybe more members so that 15% that we have is less of the pie than it was before. Or let's increase our offering and the experience within the club so that the dollar amount that we're charging per person, our revenue per member is higher. I just think that, the attrition piece of it, Americans are fickle. I mean, we don't stick with anything. The vast majority of the population is that, I want it now and I want it, to do what I want it to do is quickly, instant gratification. And as soon as that doesn't happen, they move on. They move on to the next. And it's only gotten worse.
That's the paradox. I think that it's the same message I think we've been sending since the 70s, 80s, 90s. It's the same message that's never changed. We don't have a problem, I don't think, attracting people. It's keeping them. So there's a disconnect between what they actually believe they're going to get and what they actually get. So I think the big box clubs, the HBLVs, they've done a great job of 5,000 to 8,000 members per club. They're signing up people, but they're not keeping them. They've got all this data. We've got all this tech, and yet we still can't creep that up to retain more people. So what do you think's missing?
Well, I mean, specifically for HBLP, it's a cost benefit analysis. And so if I look at let's say I'm a Planet or I'm a Crunch, and I look at my business model and I've got 15%, and that's, and my franchisee documents and binder, this is kind of what is the standard across the board. Okay, so if I'm here, I'm normal. Some of the operators do a little bit better. Some of the operators do a little bit worse. This is the standard. If I own one facility, can I really focus on this as the problem and reduce my attrition, increase my retention, like I said, by 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5% annum? I think the answer is yes, but how much money is it going to cost you, right? How many staff do you have to hire? What do you have to train those staff to do? What type of engagement do you need from those staff? This is going to get a lot of your attention, right? And so are your new membership joins going to get reduced because this is getting so much of your attention? And that's one of the things that I personally don't really like about the low cost model, the higher volume low cost models, is because they're just happy with the status quo and the churn, right? Every year we need to replace 5,000 members. That's what we have to do. Every year we have to replace 5. And there's no really too much thought around, let's plug some holes in the boat so that we don't have to replace 5,000 this year. We only have to replace 3,000. There's not too much thought because that's just the model, right? This is the way it runs. But again, some of the bigger boxes that are starting to charge more, they're moving away from the high volume, low cost or low price. When Planet Fitness first came on the scene, it was interesting because we were operating at the time in probably around 100 locations as a third party outsourced company. We saw at least half of those locations go from their monthly revenue, their monthly dues per member of 30 to 35, and they dropped them to 10.
Yeah.
And it crushed their business. Initially, it gave them a good pop because they got all these new members in, but then they also, introduced a lot of bad debt. They introduced a lot of people that their core member base wasn't happy with working out alongside of. Some riffraff and people that weren't serious. People that didn't treat the facility as nice as that core member base treated the facility. And so it really denigrated some of these businesses, some of these gyms. And now they've gone full circle back the other way, and the prices are increasing even higher. And if you look at like a traditional, say, Gold's Gym, for example, I think today to be a member at a Gold's Gym, your monthly dues are going to be around, $35, $40 to $45. And LA Fitness is kind of probably pretty similar. Maybe a touch higher, $50, $60 a month. And that's one of the things too. If you look back, gosh, I've been doing this since 99. When I first started, the gym membership hasn't gotten more expensive over time. It's gotten cheaper.
Yeah.
And there's so much more within a facility than there used to be, and so many more options. And so I think it's coming back around to where gyms are really starting to differentiate into classes, and you've got the higher volume, low price models, but then you have a totally separate class of gyms that are looking to add a lot more amenities, some boutique experiences. And with the advent of individual consumers taking more responsibility for their health outcomes. I mean, you mentioned this.
Yeah.
Post COVID, a lot of people are starting to look at and care about, what does my life look like 20, 30, 40 years down the road? I'm fragile. We saw a lot of people die. During COVID, almost everybody had like less than 1 or 2 degrees of separation between, someone dying who you knew, or someone close to you. And so just the fragility of life and taking control of your own health and your own health journey. People are deciding to make the step towards fitness and join a gym for the first time. Now, keeping those people, that uneducated consumer, I think it's just about connection, and again, it gets tougher when you have a larger enterprise location or operation, but it's just about connection. And if you think about too, like for me, I don't know where you work out, Adam, but like I work out in a place that's close to where I work or live because it's convenient, and we want convenience. And so as long as the facility is relatively clean and the machines are working properly for the most part, I'm okay. And I think that's those factors are probably understated. When it comes to how people make decisions on where they're going to exercise and the gym membership they're going to purchase. How close is it to where they work or live? And is the facility, are they checking the boxes that are probably most important to people when they walk in? Am I greeted? Is it kind of nice and welcoming? Is it clean? And are the machines working?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we used to call it. So you used to train the staff. They're coming in. They got a gun. They're going to shoot you dead with one of these bullets. Sorry for anybody that might be offended that I'm using a reference to a gun. But they came in with 5 bullets, time, distance, spouse, need, money. If you didn't overcome those objections before you sat down to actually show them any prices, they're going to kill you. And it's all about time, distance, spouse, need, money. It really boils down to that. And because wrapped around that's driving their why. There's a why sitting here, but they got to make sure they check off all these so they can even get to their why, even if they're asking about the why. Hell, who asks why anymore? On Planet, I can't find anybody on a Planet that signs you up. You sign up on a phone and then you just show up. So there is no why. There's just, I'm renting equipment. So I can understand why their attrition rate is abysmal, but at the same point, it's built into their, like you said, their business model, and they're very, very, very good at it. At this point, I don't even think they need a staff.
Well, yeah. And there are gyms out there now that have, really eliminated all staff. You've got a kiosk that you can sign up for when you come into the facility. You could sign up online, and everything is managed through the app. And they have an individual that comes in and cleans,
And I think that's what I was trying to get at is we still see the ads. We still see how they're promoting themselves. There's still a lose 10 pounds in 30 days kind of stuff going on. It's still the same playbook from the 90s. And yet it's 2025. And we've built all these systems inside these clubs that blend recovery, mindset, movement. I don't think the new members, are aware. So they come in and they just look around, they see the equipment. Maybe they get an introduction somehow to how to use the equipment. That's it. I don't think they're even getting that now because you can just scan a QR code on the side of the machine and you'll see a little thing. But I think this is where your sweet spot is because you've built systems, you've built technology, you've thought this through on how can we better engage with new members so that they understand the benefits. They understand what to do while they're in here. They feel comfortable. They've met several trainers. They've met several people that work here. They've met some members with the trainers. So they're becoming integrated into this community. Where do you think right now operators are missing out with the piece that you bring that kind of solves some of these problems?
Yeah, good question, Adam. And I definitely want to explore exactly what we bring and what we do. But before that, I want to draw kind of an anecdote.
Yeah.
So individuals that join a gym and decide, hey, I want to get in shape. Their success is reliant, that individual that joined the gym, their success is reliant upon them deciding, I'm going to incorporate this into my lifestyle. It's going to be a staple of what I do consistently over time for the rest of my life. That has to be a decision. Now, oftentimes people aren't ready to make that decision. They're exploring,
Right.
It's an exploratory, I came into the gym, I'm exploring, maybe they join. But it doesn't happen for the fitness consumer until they've decided, hey, this is part of my lifestyle for the rest of my life. I'm going to exercise and I'm going to attempt to eat fairly healthy. And that's just part of who I am, now. It's part of my makeup. Those individuals are always going to be typically members of a gym somewhere. Now, I look at it kind of like church. Like people go to church on Sundays, at least in the United States in the Christian faith. People go to church on Sundays. It's kind of one of those obligatory things. It's church. You go there, you feel good about going to church on Sundays. You get to worship, you get to be fed a little bit, hear some of the word, and you feel like, okay, I'm reorienting my week and I am starting off on the right foot. But that's one day out of 7. That's not a winning record. If I played you at 7 games and I won 1, then, I'm going to lose. And so what churches have done, the good churches, in my opinion, is they've created small groups or life groups. And those small groups and those life groups provide opportunity for like-minded individuals within the church body, whether it's, 40s and 50s, whether it's single moms, whether it's parents with young kids or seniors or whatever, here's all these different life group options that we have. And here's meeting times once a week where you can get together as a group of 10, 15, maybe 20 people and do a deeper dive, right? Get to know one another and cultivate community, because once a week showing up at a church, you don't really have that much opportunity to cultivate community. But if I'm meeting in a smaller group of people, and they're already kind of grouped with the people that I would probably hang out with anyway, then yeah, I can do a deeper dive. And that small group experience is what creates stickiness for the church. Okay. And so I think back to your question about the churn, if I'm an operator, what experiences can I provide to create stickiness? Because just like a church, I have a building. I offer some really good stuff that make people feel really good. But there's a lot of those. There's one on every quarter, right? They got a lot of options. How do I keep them here? The only way to keep them here, if they've decided this is going to be part of my lifestyle, the only way to keep them here is to get them engaged with other people that they don't want to leave. Like that's my group of people, and I don't want to leave that group of people. I'm invested in their lives now. We start doing life together. We're going hiking together. We're going to the movies together. We have kids' play dates together. We have cookouts together. Right now those individuals that I meet with in my life group are now part of my life. I do life with them. And that's one of the things that CrossFit did really, really well.
Yeah.
Is that CrossFit, they attracted this group of people. They're elite. Typically, they're younger, they're hardcore, and they started just, I'm going to eat paleo and, and I'm going to crush the weights, and then we're going to go crush some beer, and we're going to go play ultimate frisbee on the weekends or whatever. But that, that became their life. Their new ecosystem now was all around those people and those experiences. So I think that's one of the things that fitness operators miss is that, hey, it doesn't matter how fancy your facility is, how nice, what your amenities are. If you're not creating opportunities for people to get engaged with other people to where they want to come back and see them again, they want to come back and hang out with them, or organically they decide, hey, let's meet at the gym and work out together. Let's do this together. That's the stickiness component that I think can really drive down attrition for a lot of gym owners if they understood that. And it's something that, some churches do really well and others miss the mark.
That's beautiful. I mean, you're exactly right. There are some churches that do that really well. And I would even add, there are some clubs that do it well. I remember the original Crunch did it really well. It was smaller. It wasn't this HVLP. They were more higher tiered mid-market before Bally's acquired them. And Crunch would have, they'd advertise ghost tours and citywide balloon fights or pillow fights. I mean, they went all out and just did the weirdest things to attract people in. They had book reading nights. I mean, they had all this stuff, which you would never, ever think of associating with a fitness club. And then it got kind of lost, like just gone. And there are some clubs I think that are doing it, but how do we bridge that divide?
Well, I mean, that's
like I kind of see we don't really get to know them as we're signing them up. And we don't really advertise to the members to create these groups. So we kind of leave it, like you said, to just grow organically. But how can we as operators, in your opinion, I mean, we both done this a long time, how can we get them to see this and then start implementing some simple systems or programs that then allow it to grow organically?
Yeah, I mean, I think, number one, whoever the operator is, they have to decide that it's going to be a top tier priority. Right. This is going to get my attention. This is going to get my focus. And so because of that, the trickle down effect will infiltrate the rest of my staff. This is what we talk about. This is what we focus on, community and engagement and connecting and providing those opportunities for our members. And as we see members that enter the door, hey, have you checked this out? Or have you checked out that group? Or have you done this program? And so the language that is spoken among the staff has to be kind of on script and trickle down from the operator, the leader, the owner, whoever it is, that this is priority one or priority two. And then you have to have really, your barrier of entry has to be, extremely low. Because if people experience tension trying to get involved in something, then they won't. They'll abandon it. Because it's new, right? I've never done this before, and I like it. I hear what you're saying, front desk girl. Should I, try this? I'd like to try this, but then I go to the app to book it, and it doesn't work, right? I can't reserve my spot. Or, it says that I'm going to be sent a confirmation text or an email about my spot and what to expect at a class. I never get that. It says that I, should get a phone call from so-and-so to ask me a few preliminary questions about my health history. I never get that. So people abandon these things because there's not follow through. And I think tech can help solve for those things. But again, it has to be a priority one from leadership trickle down, and this is where we're going to focus our time and attention. And I'll give you another perfect example. My church that I go to, and we go pretty much every Sunday unless we're out of town or we're doing something, like hiking or something like that. But we go regularly and we get involved. I mean, my wife serves at the church, and we do some of the big events. And we've even had the pastor over to our house to meet and talk about this specifically. They fall short in the small group area. Not that they don't have them, but to get into them is extremely hard. We've been a member of this church for, I think, 4 years now. And in the beginning, I wanted to plug my wife and I into a couple of different small groups. And I sent a couple of emails, text messages through the app and through the email communication pathway. Never got a response.
Oh.
And because of that, we just abandoned it. And we still go to church and we're still engaged and we're still involved because we're like, just like the fitness person that says, hey, this is going to be part of my lifestyle because this is part of my belief system, who I am. We're going to go to church. We're going to raise our kids around these types of people in this environment. Same thing with fitness. I'm going to work out. My wife's going to work out. My kids are going to grow up working out. That's the people we are. But it's a missed opportunity because the barrier of entry was too high. It needed to be lower. And you can create a great program, but if you have, a high barrier of entry, or you have things that just don't work to help get people engaged, then, that program's not going to end up being great. It's going to end up costing you money and you're going to end up canceling it. So I think through technology, and one of the things that we have really explored is when someone does join a gym, and this is kind of where we come in as a third-party outsourced personal training company. When someone does join a gym, our best outcome, because we're a separate business within a business, right? We'll take Fitness Connection, for example. They have 46 locations, predominantly in Texas, and they run a good shop, right? And so they are higher volume, lower price clubs, beautiful facilities, very clean, friendly staff. They're well run. And so when someone joins the gym, our best outcome is that brand new member gets introduced to someone on our staff at that moment. At the point of sale is what we call it. Why? Because we have an opportunity to create a connection, right? And so we want to get as many of those new members booked into that first experience as possible, which is a fit start for us, which is your fitness consult, if you will. An intake form, questionnaire, goal setting, a sample workout, discussion on, a bit of the education around muscle and metabolism and things like that. So it's your first session to help you get your bearings when you join a club. And it's also our pitch, our sales opportunity at the end of that to sell personal training. So we're trying to drive as many of those new members into that experience as possible. And what we see is that if we get introduced to that new member at the point of sale, our show percentage is double what it would be if that new member booked that appointment via an app or online or through a link or something like that. Right? So it's super important that as we look through the lens of, hey, we want to reduce our attrition, increase our retention, get more people engaged, we have to have a staff that has a better ability to connect. In connecting, conversing like we are, it's a dying art. I mean, it really is. I mean, how many...
Dude, I'm going to text you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, think about it. You get a text. You know who's sending you a message. You can decide whether or not you want to respond. You can think about your response. Rewind the clock 20 years. You got a rotary phone or a phone hanging on your wall. The phone rings. You don't know who the hell's on the other end of that line, right? You don't know you haven't pre-thought about what you're going to say. Nothing. Nope. You have to be prepared to have a conversation. And those simple conversational skills, questioning and answering, right? Listening, active listening, it's a dying art because people don't have to do it anymore. And so it's harder and harder to create, in my opinion, engagement within clubs just because there's less and less of the workforce that knows how to facilitate that engagement through communication and conversation. But that just tells us there's a tremendous opportunity, right? The communication, the connection, the conversational, that gap, that hole that's being created is just an opportunity waiting to be filled. And that's one of the things that we talk about around COVID. So many people were left to exercise at home and exercise through workout videos and not go out to eat, not socialize and all these things. And so it created this depression and loneliness. People needed connection again. I mean, there's plenty of pop songs and country songs about, not being I got to stand 6 feet away from this person or whatever. I think Luke Combs has got one, right?
Please don't remind me.
Yeah. So the reality is people are hungry for that again. And the newer generation has lost the art. So it's just an opportunity for us. And I think it's much bigger of an opportunity now than it ever has been to really teach people, hey, let's be active listeners. Let's connect. Let's engage. Let's be able to have a good conversation with somebody. And, next time they walk in, guess what? They're going to enjoy seeing you and you're going to enjoy seeing them. And that's going to be a good experience. And that's what's going to want to create, that type of mindset of when I'm at home, hey, I want to go back here because I like the people there.
Yeah. Oh,
right.
I mean, what I'm hearing is, and you're exactly right. I agree. It's that most facilities are treating staff like a checklist, not a culture. And what I'm hearing is, why not empower staff as these community builders, train for names, nudges, join the challenge kind of moments. And if you could rewrite the staff manual for today, based on where we're heading with this conversation, page 1, what does it say?
It depends on what staff member you're talking about, right?
Well, I think it starts at the top and all the way to the part-time cleaner that's cleaning the restrooms.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
the same exact mission, and they're all on the exact same page, all aligned. And it doesn't matter if they're part of a franchisor who writes all these little guidelines and rules. If you bleed this in and blend it into this culture, how could you start off right on page 1 to make sure this is what we're going to do? This is our mission. This is our mission.
Well, you bring up a good point. How many organizations now have mission statements, purpose statements, visions?
Well, I think they all do, but do they align?
Well, whether they align or not, that's a good question. But how many of their staff members actually know what it is? Most staff have maybe never even seen it, or maybe they got a copy of it in their handbook when they first were onboarded. Right. But it's not something that they learned, and it's not something that there's a culture around, and it aligns and it makes sense. I mean, and we're guilty of that. I mean, I wrote our purpose statement, mission statement, vision statement, core values. I put those together. Do we train our new employees on these things? No, absolutely not. And do they get a copy of them? Of course. But it's not something that is woven into the fabric of really how we operate. A lot of the things, when you think about mission, like, I'll just tell you what our mission statement. I'll read our mission statement for you. And I don't have it memorized. Our mission is to empower fitness centers. Our mission is to empower fitness centers nationwide with an elite outsourced personal training solution that enhances member experience, drives engagement, and maximizes revenue. We achieve this by providing highly skilled trainers, proven fitness programs, and seamless integration with gym operations, delivering exceptional results for both gyms and their members. So that's our mission. Now, I should have it memorized. I should make our staff memorize what our mission is. And we should operate through the lens of our mission. And we do for the most part. But going back to the staff manual, if I were to have, here's the staff manual and every single position is outlined. Yeah, the mission statement, the purpose, the vision, the core values, that's page 1. And you learn it. And maybe you're tested on it. But besides just memorizing it, this is how we live these out, right? These are things that you do. And everything that is in the staff manual for, let's say, a front desk person, this is how you greet a person when they walk in the gym. And this is where it points to in our mission or our purpose or our values. This is how it exudes one of our core values. Let's take Chick-fil-A, for example. What does every single person that works for Chick-fil-A do after they give you your meal and you say thank you?
It was a pleasure serving you.
My pleasure. Yeah, my pleasure. But and I use Chick-fil-A because they're wildly successful, and they figured this thing out of, training their employees not to be robots, but to operate in a certain way in which they know what the outcomes are, right? These are our best practices. I know what the outcomes are going to be. And it creates a great experience, and it's a consistent experience, Adam. And that's one of the things that's missing in fitness is that you have no idea what your experience is going to be like from brand to brand, organization to organization. Even within a brand, one Golds versus another, one Crunch versus another, one Planet versus another. You have no idea what your experience is going to be like because the person working at the front greeting you may be having a rough day, or, they just may not like you or people in general. So as it relates back to the staff manual, I think that we really need to start with teaching people just how to connect. If I were going to, build a gym, start from scratch, and, before we open the doors, I've got all my staff hired. We're doing team building stuff. We're working on how as a team can we communicate effectively with one another. And then once we've checked that box, then we're figuring out, okay, based on my role, how do I need to communicate and connect with the members, the patrons that are coming through the door?
This is a great lead in because this is going to take us into the area I want to dive into with you. What you do best is driving personal training results for clubs, for people, all that. But there is a vast difference between communicating with boomers, Xers, and even a little bit of millennials and Gen Zs. Like if I'm going to train my staff, you nailed it right on the head. I want someone to be able to kind of have a conversation with me and have this kind of connection, be in my space with me. I don't know, because I'm literally unsure, is that what a Gen Z wants? Or am I going to actually make that Gen Z uncomfortable by engaging them with a conversation?
Well, you might.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, these are tough, big questions I think we need to tackle. Like Gen Z is the biggest area, I think, of growth for all of us to kind of examine. But you and I have had conversations in the background about there is a difference of trying to connect with these different generations. And Gen Z is this kind of enigma to me of how do I connect with, both my kids are Gen Z. They will engage with me in communications electronically differently than when I'm actually talking to them. Now, granted, I'm dad. But I get more robust, more information, more details electronically than I often do in person.
Yeah. It's weird because I'm a little younger than you, but I'm right on the cusp of Generation X.
Yeah.
I'm a Gen Xer and millennial, right on the cusp. I think it ended at, I think millennial started in 1980. I was born in 79.
Okay.
And my parents are a bit older, so I'm really an Xer. Our generation.
Did you drink from a fire hose?
Oh, dude.
Or did you drink from a hose outside?
Drank from a hose outside. I rode in the back of my dad's truck.
Be home before the street lights are on?
No, dude. All the things that we did.
You're an Xer. Okay, go on.
Out of control, some of the things that we did.
In fact, resilient.
Well, we are. We're extremely resilient because we had parents that, they were kind of laissez-faire. Not kind of, they were absolutely laissez-faire to the point to where, the government had to put PSAs out to tell parents on the TV, where your kids? It's 9 o'clock. Do you know where your kids? I mean, you remember DARE, right? Drug Abuse Resistance Education. This is your brain with the egg. This is your brain on drugs. I mean, we had programs that were catered around us and our parents to make sure that we were safe because we weren't. We did not operate safely.
Well, Okay, I'm gonna push back. I would say it was the perfect grounds for developing problem-solving adults.
Oh, 100%. Like,
Yeah.
I think we're the best generation. I mean, hands
Yeah,
down.
sorry,
It's the
boomers, we own it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we absolutely are. But here's what's unique about our generation, Adam. We are the generation that is bifurcated from a technology standpoint. And there's never been, well, that's not true. I'm sure there has been. I don't know what generation it was or how to recall it. You know, probably a generation during the Industrial Revolution,
Yeah.
you know, and so on and so forth.
Horse
But
and
but
then the first car. Oh my God.
but like we grew up with pagers and, you know, phones on the wall and no cell phones when I was in high school. You know, I didn't get a cell phone until at the end of my senior year of high school. And it wasn't a cell phone that had any type of social media on it because that wasn't even around yet.
Yeah.
The internet was literally invented during our lifetimes. And so we're bridging this gap between all of this technology and not having any technology. So we've got this deep desire and urge to get back to our roots of being outside and being free and being wild and no rules and just, you know, don't put any barriers on me. Let me just be my own person and, you know, and but at the same time, we have to adopt and really wrap our heads around all of these new things that technology is bringing and have brought. Why? Because that's how our kids are growing up and we can't ignore it. Right. And so we're having to figure out how do we manage what our kids are getting introduced to, because we didn't have to deal with it.
No.
Like, I don't know. Like when I think
all our parents
about,
had to do was lock the door and we were safe at night.
Yeah.
We can lock the door, but all these signals come into this home and kids have access to everything. So you're exactly right. Yeah. It's difficult.
yes. So we really are charting new water. Our Generation X is charting such new waters, and having to manage, you know, the dichotomy of the advent of all this tech and really, gosh, you know, the pull and the urge to just get back to the roots. And it's a tough balance, man. It really is a tough balance.
I'm going to steer us back into fitness land, but I agree with you. But what are in your opinion, your expert opinion, what are the daily micro behaviors that separate people on your team from a transactional trainer to a transformational one?
Well, there's two different schools of thought here.
Okay.
Two different lanes that I go down. One is a personal development lane, and the other is a an employment expectation lane. Right. And so they have to be married together because you're a personal trainer. And if you're going to be providing a service to somebody in which you're interacting with somebody, you're communicating with somebody, you're working somebody out, you're coaching them, you're motivating them, you know, you're trying to get the best out of this person. And you're also dealing with a person that may not necessarily want to do what you're asking them to do. I don't really want to work out. I don't really want to work hard. I don't want to do these things, but I know I should. That's why I hired you. You know, so there's a lot of interpersonal development that an individual needs to embark on in order to be a really great trainer. And then there's expectations that we have as a company. You know, here is what it looks like for you to be a great trainer. Here's all the boxes that you have to check. Right. And so two different paths. And I think that in the very beginning, when I look at people that I would want to hire to be a personal trainer, the first thing that I look for is, are they personable? You know, and I don't look for, you know, their exercise knowledge. I don't look for, you know, the number of certifications that they have. I look for, are they personable? Can they have a conversation with me? Are they likable? Do they smile? I mean, if they can't have a good conversation with me or whoever, the hiring, one of my hiring managers are, then they're probably not going to be able to have good conversations with multiple clients every single day. So I think that's where it starts. Are they a personable person? And there's a lot of trainers out there that just aren't. They've got a ton of knowledge, right, and they may have a master's in exercise science in 15
but
different
no
certifications
EQ whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, and at the end of the day, when I look at outcomes, the success of a personal trainer really is defined by the length of time that client is with that personal trainer, right? We sign people up primarily for 12 months. And if a trainer keeps them for that entire 12 months, that trainer's doing a really good job, because most of our clients do not stick it out, for 12 months, even though that's what they sign up for. If they keep them beyond 12 months, that really shows something about that trainer, right? So that's the length of time. So what it comes down to is I look for people that I would want to be around. Are you attractive? Not visually attractive, but do you have attractive energy about yourself? Because if I want to be around you, then there's a good chance that our clients will want to be around you too. And we want our clients to want to be around you because we need them to show up, because if they don't show up, they don't get results. And they don't get results, they stop paying us. And so that's the first step. Are you personal, and do you have an attractive energy? And you really can't define that unless you meet with people first. And that's kind of tough. A lot of people like to get hired on and begin a job before they have even done, a real in-person interview. And so one of the things that we do is we call it a working interview with our trainers and our fitness managers. And so if we decide, hey, we want to make a hiring decision around you, we like you, we've had a video call with you, you sound good, you check most of our boxes, let's schedule a time for you to go into the gym that you would be working at and do a working interview. And you're going to shadow some of our staff, so that you understand exactly what it is that we do. And if you're going to be a trainer with us, not a salesperson, but a trainer with us, we're going to ask you to create a workout, create a scenario in which, hey, I'm 35 years old. I've got, some right shoulder rotator cuff issues, a little bit of tendonitis in my left knee, whatever it is, create me a workout. And so we're just going to test your fitness knowledge a bit. But the biggest thing is, do we both agree that you're a good fit here? Do you mesh well with our team? And do you feel good about the team and the culture? And if the answer is yes, then we make the hiring decision. Regardless, if they're not certified, we'll get them certified. We have partnerships with ISSA and NASM, and we can get them certified very quickly for a cheap cost. And so that's not the most important thing for us. The most important thing is, are they personable? Are they attractive? From an energy standpoint, can they connect with individuals? Because that's what's going to keep people coming back. Another quick anecdote. I get a Starbucks every morning, almost every morning, and I get the same drink. And I could order my drink ahead and just run in and pick it up off the shelf, or I could drive through the drive-thru. But I actually like going in to the building and ordering my drink in person. Why? Because when I walk in, they say, "Hey, Justin," and they greet me with a smile. And Jen, the store manager, if she's back, she'll ask me, "Hey, getting a late start today," or whatever. She'll make a comment about, kind of where I'm at in the day. SK, who's my barista, will, write a note on my cup, enjoy your day, have a great day, crush it today, whatever. I enjoy the interaction. There's a personal connection there. So I spend a little extra time, right?
Yeah. And you leave a bigger tip.
And leave a bigger tip. It creates stickiness, all these things. That element is what has to be created within what we do as personal trainers. And if it's not, you're not going to be a good personal trainer.
I love it. I had some people, some fitness managers that were working for me that argued when I hired 2 bartenders, no certs. No, I mean, they worked out, but I said, watch, I'm telling you right now, put them through the motion, put them through the grind. We'll get them certified. But these people at clubs, at bars I was witnessing when I was in Chicago, they know how to talk to people. They know how to make people feel special. It's not about them. It's about the person that they're talking to. I'm telling you, if you weave this in, this is going to bleed through the culture. These two people are going to help us level this up. So you're exactly right. You find people who can connect with others, and then you give them a skill set. It's
That's right.
great if you can find them with the skill set already and then have that EQ. But I think you're exactly right. We have, I mean, the numbers are, I think it's like 47,000 per year right now that all the agencies are certifying as trainers. So there's supposedly there's 47,000 new personal trainers being produced every year. And yet, and you will attest to this, you have more knowledge about it than I do, we're struggling to find personal trainers.
Oh yeah. And that's why we exist. As a third party company, we wouldn't exist if big box gyms weren't struggling to find personal trainers.
What are big boxes? What are all the clubs missing when we touched on earlier that they're trying to kind of be, again, everything to everyone. But I would argue they're failing miserably at personal training, which is exactly where I think something like 5-star Elevate You is a perfect play, because that's your wheelhouse. That's your space. You're the expert in that, bringing it in. Why should clubs start to take notice of outsourced personal training versus trying to do it in-house?
Well, I mean, in the beginning of outsourced personal training, which happened in the late 90s, prior to outsourced personal training, you had some in-house programs. I can't even speak to the efficacy of those programs, but the majority of gym owners and operators around the U.S. had personal training as an afterthought. They would allow independents to come into the club and maybe provide some training for their members and charge the independent $500 a month. Or if, hey, I want to come in and train in your club, I'll bring you every single member that I train, I'm going to bring into the club to join the club. So deals were worked out. To really have solvent programs and be successful in-house programs today, it has to be treated as the business. It's not just part of your business. It is a business. It's a totally separate infrastructure. It's a totally separate lead management portal. You have to treat this customer totally different than you have to treat your member. Now, when I say totally different, the expectation is that much higher because the price point and the deliverable is that much higher, right? And so with a nice health club, it needs to be clean. The equipment needs to be working. And let's have a friendly staff, and people will continue to come. With personal training, that trainer has to be on time. They have to deliver science-backed programming that yields results. They have to be able to connect, and that's a hard box to check, especially today, especially with the population, our workforce population that we're inheriting right now. And so I think that's one of, and again, everything's in cycles. We are seeing tremendous amount of growth on outsourced PT side because it's hard enough just to hire for any position. But when you think about personal training as a percentage of my revenue as a big box, the majority of my revenue is coming from my membership dues, my membership base. PT is the second biggest opportunity I have by far. And so, gosh, I need to focus on it. I need to spend time on it. But you have to manage it like a business. I mean, we have a full-time recruiting director. We spend full-time recruiting, hiring, putting people through training school, managing that staff, running multiple conference calls every single week. Again, we run a brand new training school that starts every Monday and ends on Friday. People graduate. I mean, our system is just for managing personal training. So the reason that big box owners and operators are having a tough time with it is because it has gotten tougher. We didn't have to run a training school. Back 15 years ago when I was doing this, I would go to a club. I would put some ads up on Craigslist. I'd have 15, 20 people come in. I'd interview them, have them work me out, have them do a little working interview. I'd make some hires, and I would train them at the club to do the job, and then off to the races, I'd move to the next club. That's what I used to be able to do. But now, out of 100 applicants, I may get one person that is a middle-of-the-road employee for us. out of 100 applicants. So there's so many more people that we have to go through today. And work ethic is another issue with the workforce population, the population that's getting into the workforce. Work ethic is something that I don't think is understood like it used to be. I mean, we used to work hard. Now there needs to be work-life balance, and there's got to be a good culture within the club, and we got to be doing good things. And, I can't incentivize the same way I used to be able to incentivize. So there's a lot more nuances to hiring people and training people and keeping our employees engaged now than there ever used to be. So I think big box owners are realizing, gosh, I'm having a tough enough time just staffing my club with front desk people and sales people to sell memberships and daycare and janitorial staff, to think about this other side of the business that has the opportunity to really move the needle for my business. I can't do it. It's going to take so much away from my time doing this. And that's where we come in. We're able to fill that gap and guarantee a gym owner, X amount of rent or license fee per month, or a percentage of our revenue. So where I don't even have to think about it. So not only does it take a lot off their plate, but it also cuts their cost.
Oh,
because
drastically.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have to obviously spend any time or energy on the training staff, but now I don't have to worry about the insurance associated with it. I don't have to worry about the uniforms. I don't have to worry about the payroll associated with it. None of the liability associated with it. I don't have to manage these people. So I don't have to have a person to manage all of these trainers, doing this thing. I don't have to worry about the sales process involved in it. And so it is really a perfect scenario for gym owners that are looking to grow. If you're an enterprise operator, you're looking to grow and expand, we're a perfect solution, because we're going to provide you with stability on that side of the house, and you could focus on your wheelhouse.
You touched a lot on the cost and the operations side as benefits, and I totally agree. I would add that I've seen the penetration rates across the industry. They're abysmal. Now, if I took you and put you in a crunch, I know that penetration rate's going to go drastically upwards. So not only have you removed all those operational headaches and cost off my plate, now I'm seeing more money. Now I'm seeing more engaged members. I'm seeing members stay longer. And we also know in this industry that if people are getting results, they're bringing people in. So I'm not spending any money to actually have them bring more people in. So it becomes this funnel of leads. So I would add that, and I'm pretty sure you won't tell me I'm wrong, but you increase the penetration rate any club you touch.
Well, otherwise we wouldn't touch the club, because as a third-party company, if we can't increase your penetration rate, then we're just splitting a pie up that's, you already have 100% of. So we're saying, hey, let us come in and we're going to take a piece of your pie, but we're not going to increase your pie. We got to be able to increase the pie, right?
Yeah.
And so when we look at a club to partner with, or a chain to partner with, if we can't do 50% more than what they're doing, we typically will not take a stab or partner with those clubs.
Huge when you're talking about the volume the big boxes are doing.
Oh yeah.
That's huge. That's more money than if they're doing it in-house. That it's just more money that they're bringing in if they're trying to attempt it in-house, and they don't have the headaches. Mm-hmm. I don't see why more and more of these clubs aren't considering this.
Well, I mean, they are, but the funny thing is, third party and outsourced PT, we're a bit of an enigma. When we started back in the late 90s, it was Body of Change, and we were just, in the beginning, it was just primarily LA Fitness, right? And so we're only doing outsourced PT for LA Fitness. And then, some of us broke away and started doing outsourced PT for the rest of the club owners and operators around the world, that next iteration beyond fitness. But as that outsourced PT company and culture really started forming and founding, it was the wild, wild west. I mean, we didn't know what we were doing as far as, hiring. You think about HR and you think about hiring practices and labor practices and all these things, we got no clue. We
Yeah.
got a big box of shirts that say trainer on the back, and we're going to a health club and we're finding people that are fit, and we'll say, hey, we'll get you certified. Here's your shirt. Let's start work tomorrow. Wild, wild west, dude. And the same is true on the membership side. Back in the day, I've heard some war stories about some Bally Fitnesses and selling memberships and hard closing and things like that. But that's how, I mean, we were hard closing. I mean, we were making people, if they didn't purchase, they ran out of the building crying. So a lot has changed since then. But when we first started out, and when I say we, I mean, we're not the same company that I was part of.
I mean, we as the industry.
The industry, yes, and the outsource industry.
Yeah.
Because I've very much been a big part of it from the beginning. But again, when we first started out, we did gym owners and operators wrong in a lot of cases. You know,
I would say not on purpose.
No, not on purpose.
Just trying to figure out how to make this thing work. We're all just, it was the Wild West. And yeah.
100%.
Some people fell off horses.
Yeah, and you got shot with arrows in the back.
Or their own gun went off in their pocket. Damn it.
Yeah. But again, we've grown up a ton since then. Yeah. And, you know, we've got big boy britches on, and we're a real company. And we're not the only one. I mean, there's a couple other. We're the largest by far, outsourced PT. And we're the most innovative in doing, you know, probably, in my opinion, some of the coolest things as it relates to tech and engaging the member.
Yeah.
But we have a long way to go. I mean, we really do, trying to figure this thing out. When I read articles from time to time about, quote, real companies, you know, Fortune 500 companies and things like this, I look at all the process that they have and the systems that they have, the layers of management. And I'm like, man, part of me wants to get there. The other part of me is like, that seems like it'd be really expensive to have all of this process systems and layers of management. But it, you know, I think it's necessary. And as you grow, you've got to layer in those things so that specialization can happen, like we talked about earlier. Yeah. Henry Ford, obviously we give him the credit for the Ford automobile, but he's really famous because he created the assembly line. I mean, that's how he changed American industry. That's how he changed worldwide industry. He created the assembly line. And what does the assembly line do? It puts a person at a point in that line that specializes in putting the handle on the door, you know, the tire on the wheel, whatever it is. This is your task. Get good at it. Be laser focused. And I think we're getting there right now. We're still, you know, especially at my level as an owner operator, wearing multiple hats. And as we start increasing the number of gyms that we have, increasing our revenues and our profits, we're able to start layering in additional people to start specializing. And we'll, you know, and I know that from that, we'll get much better.
I love it.
And I'm excited about that growth, you know, super excited.
I think we all are. And then that's why we're doing some of the things that we're doing. And I know you're a busy guy, so I'm going to move this forward because I don't want to take too much of your time. With Justin, we're going to start peeling back the layers of what's really driving the business of fitness. We'll talk about where the cracks are showing, what's working, and where this industry might be heading. It's our opinion, but that's what NONFiltered's all about. All right, Justin, every time you're on NONFiltered, we're ending with something we're calling 5 Fouse tips. These aren't mine. They're yours. 5 real world takeaways people can act on in the minute they finish this episode or use whenever they want to pull it up. And there'll be some links down in the description for this. But so think of it like your personal playbook. Doesn't have to be polished, just what you'd tell a new operator, a coach, or even a member who's trying to make this all work in real life. So today's first 5 Fouse tips.
Fouse tips for everybody that doesn't know. Fouse is my last name. So Adam's nice nameology there. Yeah. So number 1, Adam, and yes, in my opinion, these are ranked in order of importance, at least for today. I think some future Fouse 5 tips will just be 5 tips, but today they're ranked in order of importance. Number 1 is that you're in control of your own thoughts. And so your thoughts need to be focused on what it is that you want out of life and from yourself. And so your thoughts create your reality. You're not in control of your circumstances a lot of times. You're not in control a lot of times of what people do to you or how they act towards you, but you're in control of how you respond. You're in control of how you process. And so if you understand from a self-awareness standpoint that, my brain is such a beautiful vehicle for taking me to the place that I want to be and becoming the best version of myself, let me master it. Let me be in control of it. So be in control of your thoughts. And when you decide to articulate or when you decide to act, have it be intentional. Okay, so number one, you're in control of your own thoughts. Number two, everything that you do should be done through the lens of, is this making me and everybody that I'm impacting through this decision better? Okay, so this decision, does it make people better? I call it the better decision. And I have 4 kids, and so oftentimes as I'm coaching my kids up, like I just talked about in step 1, are you thinking about what you're about to do or say? And then when you decide I'm going to do or say something, is it a good decision? Is it a better decision? Is it going to make people around me better? Is it going to make me better? Is it going to move me in the direction I want to go? And if the answer is no, on the person that it impacts or me, then you don't do it. You sit on it. Okay. So those first 2, more psychological, more interpersonal, more mindset type issues. And the next one, as it relates to fitness, you have to lead by example. I get sick of, whether it's a doctor that's extremely overweight, it's a pastor that's smoking cigarettes or, again, extremely overweight. I get sick of people in their profession where it's important in their profession that they look the part, that they're practicing what they preach. And so your belief systems have to line up with what it is that you're talking to and dealing in every single day. And so I'm dealing in fitness every single day. I'm talking to people about fitness. I'm trying to get people passionate about fitness. If they can't look at me and decide and make the decision for themselves that I'm passionate about fitness, I'm missing the mark. And so your belief systems need to line up with your actions, and vice versa. Your actions need to line up with your belief systems. So, number 3 would really be, let's walk the walk, not just talk the talk. Number 4, I think this is something that gets lost oftentimes in fitness, but also just in life, is that, we react very quickly, especially today in the digital marketplace that we live in. We see a text or we read an email or we look at an emoji and we're very quick to react. We're emotional beings, and that's understandable. Oftentimes you don't understand the intention or the context. And so I want to encourage my staff along with myself, when I encourage my staff, I give them reminders, that I use for myself, that we need to be active listeners. And before we respond, let's just pause. Let's take a couple deep breaths. And so listening, whether it's a disgruntled customer, whether it's a friend that just needs our ear, and not being so quick to give our opinion. Like, most people aren't asking for our opinion. They don't want your opinion. Oftentimes when people are talking, except obviously in this format, but oftentimes when people are talking, they're talking at, and they just want to be heard and they got to get it out. And so if you operate in that same framework, I'm going to get mine out, I just need to be heard, then nothing gets accomplished. Right? And so listen, take a step back, breathe for a minute, and let's figure out a pathway forward. Versus I have to be right. No, you don't have to be right. Okay. And I run a Monday fitness manager developmental call. I run it every Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern. And I gave these guys an analogy about my relationship with my wife. My wife's goal is to stay married until we die. That's our goal. That's our outcome that we're looking for. When we get into an argument, if our outcome is to stay married until we die, us being right in that argument, okay, is not necessary. Okay, me being right, me driving home a point, me making her feel a certain way, me making, her understand my perspective or my point of view. Is that necessary if the outcome is I'm going to spend the rest of my life with that person? No, there's give and take that has to be done. I'm just going to listen, and I would expect the same from her if the situation was reversed. And so, yeah, we got to listen, man. That's number 4. I just think people don't listen enough today. There's too much shouting. I mean, think about our government shut down right now. Why? Because Democrats and Republicans can't listen to one another. They just want to shout. That's all they want to do. Want to freaking shout back and forth, and no one sits down to listen. Hey, whatever. We're not going to get political. Number 5.
This is non-filtered. We can go there, but not now.
Yeah, for time, and maybe we will, so people really know who I am. But number 5, dude, and I'll end with this because this is me. And this is a saying that I've had since 2006. Yeah, probably 2006. If you're not excited, you're not invited. Okay? If you're not excited, you're not invited. So I'll end 5 with that. And the whole ethos of if you're not excited and you're not invited is my personal reminder that all of the first 4 things that I told you, they're very important to me. And I need to make sure that I'm in control of my thoughts and what I'm thinking and how I'm operating. And I personally need to make sure that I'm excited. Adam, when you walk into the room, when I get to have a FaceTime call with you, if I'm excited to see you, you get excited, right?
Yep.
That's just what happens.
Yeah.
And my dad does a really great job of this. It's, my dad's 79, and every time he sees me, and most of the time it's almost every day because he works out at this gym, it's like I just came home from a year-long trip, in Vietnam. And he's so excited to see me. And it just makes me feel good. I love the fact that he's excited to see me. If you're not excited, you're not invited. People like being around people that are exciting. Yeah, they're exciting. They're interesting. They got a good energy. So just be somebody that people want to be around because you're excited, Dude,
That's it, man. I love it. I don't think you could have picked a better first 5. Honestly, I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm so pumped up right now. I feel like I just went through some self-help weekend retreat with the guys, and it's like, wow. I mean, that was perfect, dude.
No, I appreciate it, man.
Thank you very much, Justin. Thank you for showing up, for being raw, for being just you and authentic. It's such a fresh place to just authentic. Thank you, my friend. Until next time. This is Non-Filtered. That was Justin Fouse, Big J, I call him. See you, buddy.
Thanks, Ben. Bye.